Welcome, everybody. Hello. Happy week before Thanksgiving. We're getting into the holidays here, at least in the US, Canada. I know, Dina, you already celebrated your Thanksgiving, but we're getting excited over here on the state
Happy
side.
Black Friday. We're getting excited for Black
Oh,
Friday. I'm
okay.
pre-registered on some sales. We're good. Us Canadians will take that Black Friday.
Okay, so that's where we have international solidarity is on
We
a
do.
shopping day. So
Yeah. Hmm.
that's fantastic. All right, so welcome to Talk Advocacy to Me, where we discuss one specific topic in the world of customer marketing and advocacy, one hot question. And we like to do that. It's much more interesting as we bring in guests. And thankfully, that's one thing Dina and I have is connections to a ton of practitioners and experts in this space. We are so excited to have yet another wonderful guest, Callie Rojewski. Hi, Callie. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for
Great.
having
And oh, you are so welcome. And, forgive me for talking over you when that happens on here. I will do it. I will do it often. So just so you know, but let me do a little intro here on our esteemed guest. We've known Callie for a while because she has been a customer marketing leader and strategist in this space for it's getting on a good amount of time. You can see Callie speaking around. She's been a highlighted speaker at Customer Marketing Summit several times. She has been a finalist for award programs such as the CAP Awards. And we are so excited to have her on here. She has a lot of experience with organizations building customer centric experiences and advocacy. With a data driven approach. And I think that's what's going to make this conversation pretty interesting here. She is currently the director of customer marketing at Menlo. And I know that you're going to touch a little bit on that with some of your experience today and some of your background here. But one thing you will figure out about Callie very, very, very fast is that she is extremely into the just giving back side of things, and that is very intertwined with both her corporate work and her personal work. And so she has also been a volunteer for many years with the Cyber Collective, and that is something that she will also, I think, bring into her story as we talk about AI today. So I always forget to do this. I always forget to pose the question that we are actually talking about today, which I'm so sorry. Let's take it back. But how in the world should I be leveraging AI in my customer marketing role? And, there's already like little videos. I don't know if you've seen the one from Sales Pro, and it's like, everyone's talking about AI. So you go to a conference, got to go to all the AI sessions. Everyone's talking about it, but it's kind of a buzzword. And then actually bringing it down into practice can be a little tricky. And then what brought up this conversation is Callie and I were talking about this, but how, when your role is specifically relationship oriented, which is how customer marketers view themselves, now you're using a machine to help you do some of your work, how we reconcile that, how we can get the best of both worlds. And you're really passionate about AI, right?
Oh, yeah. And thank you so much for that intro, Liz. That was amazing. And I think also it's always nice to hear kind of reflect it back to you how you're, I don't know, perceived in the industry. I'm very passionate about customer marketing. And so thank you for those words. And yeah, so I think this all came about from the conversation you were referencing around in this world of AI, in this world of technology that delivers quote unquote more personalized experiences. How should you be leveraging that in your role as a customer marketer, building community of advocates? And I am particularly passionate about this topic because of the intersection that I sit at customer marketing specifically. Obviously, like I love to explore what's next, what's new, and what's, innovative within customer marketing and advocacy, and marketing in general. But I have this bridge to the cybersecurity industry and data privacy. At Menlo, we offer security products so that companies can protect, like, their information. We're protecting people from new threats that come about, and new technologies like ChatGPT offer a whole new range of things to think about. And then, as you mentioned, I am a leader at Cyber Collective, which is an organization that translates intimidating tech topics. We really break them down so that people can be empowered about their digital decisions, and then also spread that information to their friends, family, and loved ones, to also help them feel empowered and protect themselves in this world of technology that definitely reflects like the systems that we face at large that can really negatively affect people. So one thing that I just wanted to give context to too, that I think is really interesting in the like headlines and everything about AI and technology, is that it's actually been around for a long time, but the way that it's risen to be part of our mainstream work is it's even more in front of our faces. And so I've done some experiments with ChatGPT, of course, like just to further my expertise as a marketer. And so I'm going to share what I learned there and my opinions for advocacy. I would like to also caveat and just like give people some mindfulness tips as you explore ChatGPT, as you use different AI tools, and then also as you explore some more of the automations that are now available with AI. As customer marketers, it's our role to be a steward of the customer experience, and you do have to be careful and really think about what information you're putting into these platforms. And so I really encourage you to keep it as neutral as possible and use them to build on your skill set until you're able to really determine the right boundaries for your company. Definitely don't put any particular, like any sensitive data into it. Be really just mindful there. Um, but
I
yeah,
love that. I love that because of who you are. You felt like you needed to start the whole conversation with some, like, I'm a huge fan, and then warnings first so that we get those out of the way.
yeah, just like critically, because what's happening too with these platforms is, people are just going out there like dropping in financial information, like uploading spreadsheets, and it's a it's a database that learns off of what you're giving it. So you're trading that information. It's just important to know that, because I do think that there's a world where you can really build your skills, and that piece can come later once we have more knowledge about that and security measures. Anyway, we can get into like the more fun part, which is like, what do you actually do with it? Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
but that's a great intro for us, and I mean, it's just so pertinent. I know everyone is talking about it, but I do think it's about to change everything. It is changing everything. I mean, my goodness, we just got out of a huge strike with Hollywood, right, where they are talking about use of their AI selves and what can be done with that and how much control you have over it. These are like questions. I don't know. Did we think we would be having these discussions 2 years ago? And as we see more and more tools come up, there's just going to be no way to avoid it. You are going to be using AI, and it's going to happen very, very quickly and accelerate. So, if you this is a very pertinent conversation for every field, and we'll try to mine Kaylee's experience to really bring it down into the customer marketing field specifically. If anyone listening has questions, please feel free to drop them in the live stream. If we have time, we will get to them. If not, I'm sure that Kaylee will come back and answer them as well. But I know everyone has a lot of questions, and I think it can be really hard to even just decide where to start. Oh my goodness. Whoa, roll back. Dina, I know you're always here, but I totally forgot to say hello to Dina, who's always
Cool.
here as well.
It's fine. Just keep going.
Guys, I know you know Dina's always the co-host, but my bad, I completely forgot to introduce her today. Just rolling right along.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine, Liz. Hey, Kaylee. I love the topic. This
Hi,
is going
Gina.
to be, I think, one of the more practical and like action oriented sessions that we've had, just based on sitting here listening.
Yes, and we're so excited about it. But I do think a lot of people, Kaylee, are just a little overwhelmed. First of all, are they supposed to be using this? Are they going to be behind if they're not using this? What do you think about that as a customer marketer?
Yeah. The way that I think about this Like, I think about honestly my entire marketing career and life as a millennial, even it has always been one emerging technology over or after the other that has completely changed the game. So if anything, definitely AI is a very overwhelming topic. This is another major shift that we're going to see in the market. But one thing that I think we collectively do have and perhaps have built up over time is that we have that muscle built. Like, we have the muscle built a bit of seeing the industry change into using more digital tools, into being having more data to make more informed decisions, into like, you know, using iPods to iPads to everything. Like, this is you know, a big shift in our society and what's available, but also we have experienced these shifts before, and I encourage us to like stay grounded in that. So just with like any new tool that might be coming out in marketing, what I recommend for customer marketers and advocacy specialists is to say, okay, let me like have curiosity. Let me you know, I can recognize the fears and like the open-endedness and uncertainty that this can bring, but start to get curious about how it's showing up in conversations, and also like what you can learn about it and experiment with it like on the day to day. I think that while it is overwhelming, looking at it as a tool for how could this support my end goal and end mission in building those really valuable relationships, and offering those light bulb moments to customers and offering them the surprise and delight, like what room does it have for me to further my goals? I have been experimenting with that a bit, and I've actually been working with this great, he's an AI consultant and specialist that I met through TikTok. His name's Grayson Zhang. And we've been experimenting, just like exploring different things for customer marketing. And what I learned is that, um, and I'm talking about ChatGPT specifically, it can
Yeah.
help accelerate some pieces of the, you know, production process, perhaps project management process, so that you can live in that more creative zone, to be able to focus on like the surprise and delight and even the in-person experiences. Now, that's just one AI tool that exists, and there's
Mhm.
plenty of other tools that pop up. And even a lot of like all of the B2B SaaS companies, I feel like, are very AI driven now. So there will be other ways where it shows up in helping you deliver like a more accelerated, automated customer journey. But I think like staying centered in what your end goal is and learning about the new products and taking or leaving what works for you to help accelerate your end goal as the society continues to grow with these tools is a good mindset to have, because it kind of is like, instead of getting swept up into this like AI movement, it's let me stay centered in what I know I'm here to deliver and understand like the pros and cons of what's available to me. um, so that's what I would say. And that's the approach I've taken. And I have seen like some even more further light bulb moments for me that I've had kind of partnering with these tools to learn and expand, as opposed to being afraid of them.
Yeah, and that's a good clarifying point. I knew you were talking about Chat GPT specifically. Of course, we're seeing AI really penetrate into the tools coming in. It's interesting that you said, you know, being a marketer, it's constant shifts. And I would say yes, but it has felt a bit slower maybe over, you know, the last 5 years, even if we think about advocacy specifically. Um, a little bit quieter, I would say, on the technology front for a while. And now all of a sudden, it's like, boom, all these new tools are coming to market. And I would say AI is a really integral part of that conversation. And it's interesting how it pairs with what you're saying, which is give me space and give me room to do what I'm doing better. And so a lot of these customer marketing or advocacy tools really focus on creating content, which can be a very, very hefty process. But as we know, there's pitfalls too. I think Dana and I have seen some recently, some pretty crazy content that people have shared, organizations have shared, and we look at it and we're like, oh, this went through AI And the people who created it had no idea about the subject matter.
Hang
And that
on, real
was
talk,
shocking.
real talk. Let's share our real example here, Liz, of what happened to us. The organization will rename nameless, but let's share it. Liz and I are presenting a session, and we submitted the session description, and it was kind of funky because we're like that. And the session description that was published on the website was about the human life cycle, like cradle to grave. We're talking like childcare to senior care. So our session, which is about life cycle advocacy, obviously went through some sort of AI blender.
Oh my
And what
God.
came out the other side was AI's interpretation of life cycle advocacy. Advocacy, the act of caring. Life cycle, you are born and then you die. And so it was about kind of the human condition from childcare
Well,
through to senior
this
care.
is a perfect transition then into this idea of, okay, there is a lot of fear around AI too, because it's like, okay, well, if someone can now do what took me hours or days, and now a
Mhm.
machine can do it fairly well to some degree of accuracy in a matter of seconds. Am I as needed? Do I still remain? But this was a great example of, whoa, there is absolutely no substitution for subject matter expertise. And I know that that is one thing, Callie, that we think about, where is there room for this in customer marketing, and customer marketing has historically, customer advocacy specifically, has really prided itself on not being this mass, you're a nameless customer. No, it's about knowing your individual customers, understanding what makes them tick, one-to-one human connection. This is how we were really proud of ourselves. We're not B2C with mass loyalty. We're B2B, and we have relationships. So is there a dichotomy there with AI? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like both ends of the spectrum, right? I think where customer marketers that are very B2B and relationship focused and who really value that can help meet in the middle. When they start to play around with these tools more, even for ChatGPT, you realize that, like, oh my God, first of all, that example is so cringe, but also such a
So
good
cringe.
example of where we are at right now that can kind of debunk the fear. And yet, like, they're just like the exponential growth we've seen and how it's taken off, like it could tip over very fast into where people don't have to look at it, into where it is 100, like 99.9% accurate over time. And then what do we do then? So I like what I'm trying to get at to balancing that is that the way that we use these tools, you actually play like an additional role as a marketer where, you're not just like, it's an additional thing, just like how you may be adept at like messaging, just how you may be adept at connecting with customers, just like how you may be adept at like brand or graphic design and having that show up through like event experiences and event design. With some of these tools, you have to know like the right prompts and the right triggers for it to be able to be optimized to accelerate your end goal, as opposed to take away from it and completely distract. And you can't be hands off. You have to be just as hands on as another tool. And you make trade offs into what it may accelerate and what it may not. And then you can like be all over what that means for your customer experience on the other end.
Mhm.
And so my angle is like look at the places where it can help lift some of the heavier things on you so that you can spend more time like in those one-on-one relationships and understanding what people want customized or what they want from you on the other end, and then help like deliver that in other ways with the new tools that exist. I think like a big place of within like customer marketing and just marketing in general is that you hear and we have seen shifts around the importance of brand and storytelling. And I think like in today's age, it goes into commentary. And we've talked about how attention is like the number one thing. And if from, customer marketing and advocacy world, that helps you have that loyalty and attention from customers because it's a real person that's helping to facilitate those connections, and they
Mm-hmm.
see the real people behind the company and they have relationships with them. I would still center that like within how you use these AI tools and say, okay, like this can help like make heavy lifts lighter, but is this still helping me capture that attention and build that connection? If you're just using AI to churn out content and that content is exhausting and like irrelevant at times and like doesn't hit and feels bland, then that's content for content. Like maybe you're doing that to help with the algorithms, but how is that helping your customers? And so I think like customer marketers and advocacy professionals, especially in their roles, can say, you know, we're not just going to do content for content's sake. If that's a lift, we're going to make sure that it's optimized for our customer. And again, like, I think it helps give us like an avenue for an argument to protect that like relationship and that human side, because that is the one thing that these AI tools,
Mm-hmm.
they may manufacture, but they truly cannot deliver. And one thing that helps encourage me with that as well, that I like was reading about over the weekend, I was watching videos about it, short form videos, okay, not reading, but was about like the science and the chemistry of human interaction too. That like energy exchange, which we saw during the pandemic when we were all seeking more community and connection, that simply cannot be replaced by technology. So yeah, my goal in this conversation is just to make sure that with this overwhelm of tools, we can stay grounded in like our end goal is the same, and we will not be shaken in like our desire to create those relationships and special connections. We will only like learn how to use these to accelerate it, and then also protect those relationships to make sure that we're not exhausting or using them in ways that are overwhelming and not, again, aligned to that end goal. So
I mean, I think like with a lot of other marketing things, well, everything in life really, the expectations do start to lift. So it's not like the work, oh, I'm out of work. With new powerful tools, the expectations will continue to climb, which is a little scary in and of itself. But it's, for instance, I always tell people personalization is so key in customer advocacy. And I liken that to if I see an ad that isn't relevant to me on Instagram, I'm pretty surprised. I think, who dropped the ball? The targeting is incorrect. Why am I seeing an ad that has nothing to do with me? That's interesting to think through when everyone has become a bit more adept with AI. The expectations are going to be pretty high. I should be seeing absolutely relevant content because it shouldn't take a million years to create. I should be seeing maybe even beautiful content because there's now AI that generates different themes and different content, and there's no reason for my stuff to look bad anymore. So as the expectations continue to rise, well, and everyone starts to come to that level, how are you going to differentiate? You know, right now you can differentiate if you move quickly and you know some of this stuff and you're ahead of the game. But then as soon as everyone gets to that place of, oh, you know, everyone's advertising on LinkedIn and now it costs $1 million and nobody can be heard anyways because LinkedIn controls the algorithm and it's like sucking for all of us. But when you get to that point, so then how do you stand apart? I mean, it's always going to be the next, and then how are you? So we will adapt to AI, our programs, and the way we interact with customers. We will learn how AI fits in that puzzle. And then we will all say, and now what to stand apart? And now what to stand apart? But I think now is a good time to stand apart with AI because it's a lot, and it's a lot to learn, and you can move. If you move quickly, you will stand apart to some degree. um yeah, so that's kind of how I think about it. It's a bit overwhelming because everyone will have to rise to that level eventually just to survive, and then we will be on to the next thing. And I love what you said, Callie, about it's so funny how everything's a pendulum in life, you guys. Everything's a pendulum. It's going to
mm-hmm.
swing back to, wow, I just really want to talk to and know that this was authentically created by a human from scratch. You know, as food becomes more processed, it's wonderful. And now we have this whole business and industry around, I want farm to table food. I want something real. I don't want something processed. And maybe with marketing and content, we'll get to the point where it's like, okay, but yeah, I want some authenticity. I want something really real that I can understand and know it came from a certain place. I just think that's so interesting. Like if we just look 10 years ahead, where are we?
Yeah, I love the point that you made about expecting more personalization. Like it kind of would turn off a customer or like position your company as behind in the market if the personalization isn't up to par with what they expect, especially in other areas of perhaps their consumer lifestyle. I think that that's really interesting, and I think that that's a great angle for a customer marketer or advocacy professional to bring and bridge conversations at their internal companies for that. Like, I think about how, you know, we've worked with our executives to make sure that they each have relationships, which of course they already have relationships with our customers, but like helping to facilitate even stronger relationships. And I think using your point there and thinking about how to bridge that internally can help support a customer marketer in their role of change management of an organization, also to understand like these tools and how it can affect customer advocacy for them in the future. So it's a good point.
Yeah, change management, huge. Remember when we were just talking about change management of just having advocacy in your organization and the change management around that, and now look where we're at, guys. Okay, we actually, I hate how fast the time goes because, let's go. We have a couple questions. I'll get to at least one here because it ties into, I know what we were going to ask you anyways, Callie, which is real life examples, right? Where is AI being done right? Or what are some best practices for adopting it right now?
I think that's a great question. I would say like the examples of where it's been done right have just been like case studies I've learned from perhaps like other individuals or companies. I think like help leveraging different tools that incorporate AI to read data faster and make informed decisions around automating pieces of the customer journey is, I think, something that we've that's been in practice for a little longer that we feel comfortable about. Other than that, like for content, I think where what's been really successful, thinking about how we even would leverage it for Cyber Collective or for Cyber Collective is the main example that comes to mind, or for like my personal brand, is using it to bounce back and forth and accelerate the creative process where you're not just having it churn out what you need and copy and pasting, you're using it to get to the right tweaked copy, or you're using it to pull in different research from Google, different articles, and summarizing things to give you the information you need to accelerate your process. So it's not necessarily like, for me, what's been successful is not using it to like write the exact copy. It's using it to iterate on my copy, or to iterate on like research points, or to pass me the top 5 tools that I could use to solve a current problem that I have, like for creative, like marketing, sales stuff. So that's where I've found it easiest to integrate into it and have seen the most success is like the back and forth and partnering with it, as opposed to looking at it to churn out the answers for you. And that's also how this stuff works. Like in any tool that incorporates AI or ChatGPT itself, you have to teach it. It has to learn over time. And it's also starting from a baseline that's a bit behind. It's not like from 2023, it's from like 2021. And so it learns more over time the more you engage with it. So I think that's just a powerful lens to look at it to start, where experiment and look at it as a tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was Christina Garnett who had kind of some of the same sentiments around using AI. Was the really some of the value is the back and forth, the partnering. Let it think for you. Let it help you think. And then I read, using it, if you think about it like you're Google. So instead of going to Google and 10 best CMA softwares, but you can go into chat GPT and you can ask, okay, who are some of the best vendors? And then you can keep asking qualifying questions to get to exactly what your needs are. That's where it has something that, Google doesn't have. It can keep helping you refine and refine and refine your search, which is fantastic. I'll add another example to that real quick. So as we look at some of the tools in the advocacy space, right? I love seeing tools that are collectively capturing voice, whether that's voice of customer, voice of industry, whatnot. And then it is consolidating that voice to create content that comes from then the voice of the customer or the voice of the industry. That's a huge time savings. And it is very authentic because it is bringing in those voices. So you're not starting from scratch, but it's doing a lot of that collective work, collecting work for you, and then some summarization of what collectively those voices are saying. That's very hard to do as an individual. Much easier to do through AI. So I think that's a huge win. When we see certain platforms, I think user evidence come to mind. PeerSpot has some new functionality as well there, which is very, very interesting. Just conglomeration of the voice of your customer. Did you want to add anything, Dina? I see you nodding.
Oh no, I was just thinking about how I use ChatGPT, and it's exactly how you said, Kaylee. I just take, if I've written some messaging and I want to see that messaging maybe from a few different angles, I'll put it in and say, like, rewrite this to be more edgy, rewrite this to be more fun, rewrite this to be more energetic, or whatever. I'm trying to find that little tweak on what I've written.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I just garbage all of those and stick with what I
Mm-hmm.
originally wrote. Or sometimes there's like a phrase or like a word or a sentence. I'm like, oh yeah, that's money, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
pull that
That's money.
out. But it is, yeah, that sense of
That's
it's
fire.
like, especially in as for remote workers, it's kind of like having that person at the
Yes.
desk next to you that you could say, like, what do you think of this? Like, what would you, how would you make this a little more edgy, and having that come back to you.
Yeah.
Yes. And you have to be able, like a coworker, to be like, not so much,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just like, no, that's not how I would say that. And this goes well. And I know we're a little over time, but I am going to throw us collectively as a group Jenna's question, um, which is, let's bring it down specifically to advocacy. Um, Specific examples of how maybe we should be using AI when it comes to advocacy programs. How can we leverage this? So there's some really low hanging fruit, right? Even writing a customer story or finding the exact right title, or what you said, like a tagline for your program, name for your program, whatever, using these tools to brainstorm really far outside the box, getting a lot more ideas to the table. I know that's something that we really have tested and started using AI for, is just getting, again, that collective mindset. How can we get further and further ideas? Give me ideas that have to do with space. Give me ideas that have to do with community. Give me ideas that have to do with whatnot, so that we're really collecting a lot of different ideas. But it's so much faster than, okay, let's get in front of a whiteboard for an hour and think of all the ideas we can come up with. Well, we can't think of as many as a machine can, but we also have the expertise to know when, oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a good possibility of a program name, a story name, whatever an event name, whatever it might be, and we know how to shuffle things out. So that's one very low hanging fruit. Okay, what other ways? I mean, because I don't know if it's gone very far in advocacy programs, but let's really think, like, advocacy programs specifically. How could we be using AI?
I really have loved experimenting with it for event design. So, we talk about customer advisory board events. Everybody, I
Mhm.
think, in their, well, not everybody, but those programs balance both virtual and in-person events. And I think about like the surprise and delight element, like the, perhaps like events or environments that could be really unique. So I've found it to be a good partner there when it comes to like what could be we really creatively deliver an experience. And I think that it's also helpful, if you're not an expert in the type of person that you're serving. I think we have relationships with our customers, but if in our career we're going from perhaps like industry to industry, or customers who have different priorities, like pulling from being able to synthesize like from the internet like the coolest things related to somebody who has specific hobbies or personality traits, like that helps me offer more surprise and delight. And then like you said, with customer stories or case studies, like frameworks for things are really helpful, especially to accelerate change management too. um, And then also like internal communications cadences, I think like are really helpful. That takes me a lot of time to think about as an advocacy and marketing professional for change management and like, evangelizing internally.
Mhm.
And so that helps like accelerate pieces of like, how can I be most effective to make sure people have what they need?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think on that point, for me, it's like there's this kind of operational element. As customer marketing and advocacy professionals, we're often expected to know how to do a lot of things that maybe we haven't done before. So, maybe it's you've been tasked with standing up a roundtable series and you've never done that before. You can go to something like ChatGPT and just ask, what are the steps required to stand up a roundtable series in for this type of customer audience in this type of organization? And at least then you're not starting from the blank slate. You have some sort of operational framework to start your planning process from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it can always, because we work in a very personal practice, a lot of the things that you do in your own personal life where you see the value of AI can be translated over into what you do. Literally, guys, I have asked ChatGPT what would be good gift ideas for
Yeah.
people in my family, right? Because there's some people really hard. It's really hard to find a good gift idea. So you can put in what they like, what they're interested in. Okay, now tell me, what would you get this kind of person who has these hobbies or these likes? Because I don't know, right? So when you apply that, if you can take that one step further, which is what advocacy is applying, really applying principles that are very common to humanity of mutual value and being seen and valued. Um, how can you apply that learning and get further than you can go as a single person? And I would say this: customer marketing teams are small. They tend to be small. If you have a two-person team, you're probably ahead of the game to some degree. If you have
Yeah.
a three-person team, count your lucky stars. So some of you are luckier than others, but when you are small, you've got to figure out ways to scale. And a lot of people are always looking for, okay, well, how do I scale what I'm doing? I don't want to just hit 5% of my customer base. I want to hit 95% of my customer base with some interaction. And how do I do that at scale? Well, these tools and this type of technology is going to be, wow,
Yeah.
extremely integral to that ability to scale.
I know we're kind of over time, but I just want to like add a plus one to your point there around like how you use it in your personal life can trickle over, and what I think like a lot of customer advocacy and marketing professionals face being like the only person perhaps in their role or like one of two on their teams. I have actually found it very helpful, and again, you have to be mindful of what you put in, helping like getting tips and getting routine ideas for my own sustainability as like a career professional,
Mm,
balancing my own personal life, balancing my personal goals, my mental health. Like I struggle with ADHD, and like how can I balance that, and different tips for how I can communicate about different things. And that has been very game changing to think about. It's definitely not like my biggest use case of ChatGPT at all. And again, you have to have your boundaries with what you share because these are you're definitely trading your information. But that has felt like again like another type of like tool or partnership or something I have with me that I can use to help promote my own work-life balance, help with my own sustainability and reaching my career goals. So it's a different take, and it's definitely new, and we have to learn about it, and we have to experiment with what we're comfortable with. But I love what you were saying about your like personal gift ideas, and I think it actually trickles over into other ways too. I know
mhm.
that that may not hit when we're all overwhelmed seeing the AI topics, and it's perfect stress in fact stressing us out more, but there's like with everything there's like the opposite end of the spectrum, and I think we find ways to live in the middle too.
Yeah, I agree. And the crazy thing is, we'll come back to this discussion in 5 years, and none of us will operate the
No.
same way. And we'll be so frustrated because, oh, I had to, right now we're okay going to Google to research and get information. We're going to become accustomed to not only getting our information, then being given deliverables as part of that. So I don't want to just know which exercises I should be doing as an extremely sedentary working all day person. I actually want you to give me a plan. And that's what that next step AI is going to be able to deliver. And just we'll be living completely differently, I think, in 5 years when we have this discussion again. But some things will remain the same. And I think that is our messaging here. There is no replacement for human to human connection. In fact, I think the presence of AI only increases the value of the human to human connection. So your value as a customer marketer doesn't go away. If anything, your value has now increased, but it is up to you to figure out how to bring that forward as a differentiator and a product. And as a marketer, that's some of the skill set that we'll be talking about, I'm sure, throughout this next totally new revolution of technology yet again. Okay. I know we could talk about this.
Money, Liz. That was a money.
Thanks, Callie. Thanks. Okay, so we could talk about this all day. We have to stop. The conversation will continue. Obviously, Callie, you're super passionate about this. This is someone that I know. Well, I say this, and then I should ask guests before I say they'll be happy to link in with you and answer questions.
Happy to. I absolutely would be happy to. I, love the customer marketing and advocacy community. We're all thinking about these things. Our customers are thinking about these things and dealing with the same topics and challenges too. I would love to talk further. Here for any questions, and
Wonderful.
Who wants to connect?
Callie, thank you so much for being our guest. We knew this would be a really great topic. So much more to think through, so many more new ideas. Always welcome ideas from people listening and the community of sharing. Let's share. How can we do better in our roles? How can we leverage AI in ways that we haven't thought about yet? Kudos to obviously some tools coming into the market that are going to help us do that. But we will have to share and help ourselves increase in the value that we can bring in our roles, but the human part will remain, and we have to not lose sight of that as well. All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening to this extra long episode. So happy to have you.
Thank you so much. Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Lise. Bye.